What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Hamilton. You are checking out the Break It Down show. Break it
That
down.
is right. Man, I appreciate you. You know, this technology stuff is incredible until the second it becomes like too much, right? It becomes like it gets in our way. Or like, look, we live in Southern California. We should be able to have clear streaming anywhere we go. But I'll be damned if my phone isn't on SOS 10% of the time, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, man, thanks for coming on the show. It struck me. We've known each other for quite a while, and I had never had you on the show. And I don't know, you know how these things are. The most obvious thing is like right in front of you. And so I'm glad that we're fixing that. How have you been? How are things going with all your media stuff?
Hey, man, it's going, man. I can't complain. Thanks for having me first and foremost. You know, just out here trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents.
That's it, man. My machine, my podcast, you know, it gives me opportunities. It's on me to figure out how to turn them into money, right? And so that means we end up doing some incredible stuff. I know you and I tried to the Lakers were looking for a podcast, and we were one of the very few people. I think there were 3 shows that got a chance to do this. It didn't work out for us, but the show they got was good. But we've known each other for that long. And I don't know, man. It's just, I think about the modern way we do reporting, sports reporting especially. I think about guys like Nitecast. I'm going to put his picture up here. This guy tweets all the time about like the not enough people talk about, and then he celebrates someone like Jay Buhner, who doesn't get nearly enough credit for what he does. What are your thoughts on how have you pushed on sports media, and how do you see it being pushed around you to also push it forward?
I mean, you have to be able to pivot, right? You have to understand that things change. And I've had several conversations, even with friends, colleagues, or whatever, and I said traditional media is dead, right, in today's space. But the thing about it is, you have to be. It's about influential media, or what they call new media, and you have to be able to adapt to it. It's like Charles Darwin's, theory of adaptivity. You have to adapt, or you die. And so that's the mindset you have to have. You have to be able to learn, be willing to, and be open enough to learn and do what you need to do to excel in the field that you plan on being in, and not be a dinosaur. And I think a lot of times, we are all creatures of habit, and it becomes increasingly difficult to try to learn, like you said, different measures, different technology tools, new apps that are coming out almost seems like every month. But you have to be able to stay on top of it as best as you can in order to compete, to be in competition. And also, I think it's mentality too. I think it's mentality of how you see yourself. I think it's mentality of where your trajectory is, where you want to be, versus where you're gonna be, and knowing what that distance is, and seeing what your address is, so to speak. And if people don't understand what I mean by address, that means your finish line. You may not know how you may get to the finish line, but you have to see a finish line somehow, some way, and then you navigate your way the best way you can to get to that, and then move on to the next.
There's so many different, like you and I both were in this social media space. We get to talk to and interact with incredible people and organizations. And so like right now you had a reel on Instagram. Everybody should go check out your stuff. I'll put the link up here when I shut up. But you were talking about Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp's show, and some of the stuff was said on that. So you've got a show that already is spun in 2 days, 1.8 million times. Channel 7 News doesn't get that. I mean, it's amazing, right? And so they have this, he and his guest have this culturally relevant conversation. It's themed in sports, but, like when he had Cat Williams on, that's not a sports show, right? And so these lines have been blurred. And then people will take Shannon's stuff, cut it into smaller piece, and literally put their face on the screen and be like this, like that. And they just react, and they're taking Shannon's work, putting it to work for them, but also putting it to work for Shannon. It's amazing that can happen. But does that also dilute the messages that you guys like you and I try to find these notes, these signals in the noise, and say, hey, this is what's going on for real. But can it be too big? When Shannon is that big, he drowns out a lot of the other voices that are out there. So how do you work within that paradigm?
Well, I think it's what you say about just how we consume media, and in the words of the late great Nipsey Hussle, F the middleman. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They're separating the middleman. They're going direct to consumer. We've seen a lot of athletes do it. We've seen a lot of entertainers do it, and so now media personalities are starting to adapt that same philosophy and being able to do that effectively. And so Shannon would never drown out my voice, and I'm not trying to drown out his voice. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what Shannon Sharp has been able to create with Club Shay Shay. I actually like Club Shay Shay. I think he gets sometimes more criticism than necessary because he operates in a different fashion. Because now everybody wants to be the traditional journalist or engage people off traditional journalism, which they've never been a traditional journalist a day in their damn life. So how the hell can you sit up here and criticize somebody else who's doing it? And I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy and envy and just wanting to be in that position. And listen, I salute people like Shannon Sharp. I salute people like Stephen A. Smith who've been able to, even though they're older, but still been able to adapt to the newer ways. And that's why it's effectively working for them, because they refuse to be dinosaurs. When you see people like Jamel Hill and Kerry Champion, or even, Dan Patrick, or another guy I have a tremendous amount of respect for is Pat McAfee. And Pat McAfee pretty much gave you the blueprint on how to go about doing certain things when it comes to this digital space and this digital age. And so he's been able to take that and multiply it and duplicate it on different levels, whether we with the WWE or ESPN or any other of his affiliates that he's been able to attach himself to, and been really, really successful. I mean, you look at Mr. Beast, for example, what he's been able to do, not just with YouTube, but Amazon, and what he's been able to do with that. And you look at another young kid, I forgot his name, but he reviews all the toys, and he ends up getting almost $100 million, if not over $100 million, just to review toys. And they gave him a show. So there's opportunities out there. That's why I don't care. My voice will never be drowned out because it's my voice. I have a certain perspective, just like everybody else has a perspective. Whether you agree or disagree is fine. My whole thing is listen to what I'm saying or watch what I'm doing, and that's my whole thing. So I don't put myself in the sports category. I don't put myself in the entertainment category or a lifestyle category. That's why I always introduce myself as a sports, entertainment, and lifestyle media personality, because that's exactly what I am. I'm a creator. I create things. I create storylines. I create storytelling. I create programming. I'm an executive producer of a WNBA show that we digitally created last year. We're going into season 2, the Hardwood 94. So those are things that I love to create. I'm creating, audio content. So those are the things that I love creating and being able to share with the audiences from different walks of life and different perspectives.
Yeah, I love it. What sport charges you up the most? I mean, you're talking about WNBA, but there are so many different sports, and you're all over the place, man. You go. There's no doubt about it. Like, you are out working the competition. So what just makes it hard for you to remember? Oh yeah, that's right, I'm working right now.
Yeah, I think ultimately when you look at what helps me work, I think it's just one of those things where I think what works is the fact that you just have to look at it from every angle. And I look at it from a storytelling angle. So whatever the storytelling angle happens to be, that's what I'm going to look at, right? So whatever the storytelling angle happens to be, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, hockey, entertainment, that's what I look at. And that's what I feel like the people want to see. People want to see compelling stories, whether they feed that to you not in the media. I know it's a lot about clickbait. I know it's a lot about eyeballs and eardrums to whatever the hottest thing is going on. But ultimately, people want to see storytelling. If you don't believe me, then why is the movie industry rising at an alarming rate when it comes to streaming movies and documentaries and things of that nature? Because people want to see storytelling. They want to see things that are going to be compelling. They're going to be entertaining. And that's why we have shows like First Take. The reason why First Take is doing so well, people can criticize it, like it or love it or hate it. The thing is, you get an opportunity. To do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed, you mentioned Stephen A. Smith earlier. Sage Steele comes to mind too. These are outspoken folks who don't necessarily fit within ESPN's world, right? We talked about the classic media thing. ESPN lost me a long time ago. One, they're terrible about covering West Coast sports, but two, they put a lot of politics in there. And so you're like, hey, I'm not here for that. I'm here to hear about the Knicks. I'm here to hear about the Pelicans or whatever it's going to be. And so now you see folks like Sage Steele and Stephen A. Smith speaking out and adding their own version of I guess politics, you could say, but within their sports commentary. Is this is the inclusion of point of view and politics? Is this a good thing for the individual creator? For sure, for me, it seems bad in terms of like how I see ESPN. I don't really consume any of their products at all.
Well, I think it's about what you want. I think that's why so many different channels. I mean, I think there's different. I think there's different aspects, different. That's why there are 900 channels. Well, I mean, whether you subscribe to Hulu, YouTube TV, that's why there's not just one or two channels. There's 900 different channels that you can select from. Some people like watching, BET. Some people like watching OWN. Some people like watching, the Logo Network or Lifetime or, Fox Sports or ESPN or NBC, CBS, ABC, whoever it may be. There's variety, and that's what I think you have to present. I think it's variety. I think when people feel like they have a choice in what they want to consume, it makes it better for all parties involved because now they feel like they have the control as far as the type of programming they want to consume.
Yeah. And as of today, F1 has its own streaming channel that they're launching. I don't know if it's launched today but the press release dropped today. And this also creates opportunities for guys like us where we can say, legitimately, we're members of the media. I'd love to come to Vegas and cover Formula One next November, right? And look, they may or may not give us a press pass, but I've had a press pass for Dodger Stadium. You and I have had press passes on the same day for the Lakers, and we legitimately are doing things that, it's press related. And so when you think about that too, the access you get, we're just talking sports. Where we live, there's events every night, and the access we get to those things, it's almost like too big of a buffet. It's at times you're like, oh man, I can't go to all these things. So when you are looking at the wide variety of things that you can cover, how do you pick out the signal and the noise? Like, it's one thing, like I always do Chargers football like you do, right? Or whatever it's going to be. But how do you pick out the things from the vast array of opportunities that we do have?
That's a good question. I think, listen, it's about access. It's about being able to do the job effectively and be able to present, reports, storylines, being able to interact with the players, coaches, or whoever it may be, upper management executives, things of that nature, and also being respected. And the one thing I can say, like, I'm just using this one team as an example, is the Los Angeles Rams. And the way the Los Angeles Rams, especially their PR department, which I think they do a fantastic job. Artist Twyman and his whole crew, I think they do a fantastic job, is because I think they treat the media with respect. They understand the importance of the media. Obviously, they're there to also make sure the players are protected, to make sure the players are doing what they're supposed to do, saying what they need to say, and things of that nature. But also, too, it's about being respected. And ever since I started covering the Rams, pretty much, it's about a respect factor and how they treat the media. And I think if you treat the media as people and not just as an obligation, so to speak, I think you get better results when it comes to coverage of not just your team, but your entire organization.
Yeah, well, we went to Dodger Stadium to go, and we have a mutual friend, DJ Severe. Shout out to the Dodgers and MLB's best DJ. But when I first met him, Dodgers kicked out a press pass. Me and John went up. My daughter went up. Three of us had press passes, and we passed back when they had the ice cream fountain back there. And so we had root beer floats and everything. We briefly met Vin Scully, and John is a lifelong Giants fan. And he said, like on there, he's like, hey, the Giants are my team. Go Dodgers, right? Because and you know who didn't do that? The Giants. We met Coop and we went Kruko. Yeah, we met Kruko at a Taco Bell. And he's like, yeah, talk to these people. They'll set you up. They did not set us up. They ignored us. And so there's actually a hilarious tweet. I'll see if I can find the picture of it, where John is like, yeah, go Dodgers. Like, I love the Giants. I'm not going to stop loving the Giants, but look at what the Dodgers did. And so he posted that on Twitter. And then the Giants finally respond, and they send a picture of Michael Corleone giving Fredo the kiss of death, And it's like, well, you got that wrong because you guys dropped the oranges by not talking to the media. I'm sure the Giants are better at this stuff now, but this is what we're talking about, right? Like, you need to have access, all these grassroots people that create tremendous response. I know for me personally on my side, there are people that adore me, adore my show. And if I'm like positive on something, they're going to be positive on that thing. I try not to be negative on things, but sometimes my not talking about it is the obvious flag that I don't like something. But that there is that responsibility that they have to their community. We hold big, like we have our own tent with our own stakeholders, and we're valuable in terms of pushing people towards a certain kind of content to the point where, hey, we love the Giants, but go Dodgers.
Well, the thing about it is, I think, and it does, it like I said, the Dodgers are another good, PR organization as well. Just mentioning them because I think they do a really good job trying to get, especially in this season with all the hoopla surrounding Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto, and they have a huge Asian press following as well. They do the best thing that they know how to do as far as just making sure that we get the coverage that we need to get. And also, too, I think that makes your job easier as a reporter, as a journalist, as a media person, because we're not here to make life hard. At least some of us aren't. Okay, so some folks are trying to be the clickbait. They're trying to be the rebel rouser, so to speak, and the shock jock. But some of us are actually out here really trying to do our jobs and do them effectively. And I think, listen, you got to have fun with this too. Like, you can't take a whole lot personal. There's some things that are personal. There's some things that aren't personal. You just have to pick and choose. And every battle is not worth fighting for. Some things are worth fighting for. You got to understand that too. I personally try to have fun. I'll make sure I get my point across. I will fight for what I need to fight for. Some things I may look the other way on just because, hey man, it's not worth it. Let me just figure out a different way. And it's just, you're not going to get every request done. I understand that. You're not going to get every request known to man granted at your feet as if you are the king of the palace. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But if you can get most of your requests granted, great. You're winning. If you get 70%, 75, 80% of your requests granted, great. That works in your favor. And also it gives us an opportunity to really shine light on the player or the personnel member or the organization for that matter. So I just think, listen, you got to take your wins and your losses, the bitter with the sweet, and you just got to make the best of it and make sure you dig deep enough in yourself and figure out who you are and how you want to approach this and be able to disseminate the information to the people. Because that's what it's about. It's about content. If you don't have the content, no one really cares about you moaning and complaining about what you're not getting.
What does a scoop look like these days? It doesn't, scoop's not like a big thing like it used to be in the news world, but the newspapers and that kind of thing. But what's a scoop today?
I think, unfortunately, everybody wants to be first, and nobody wants to be accurate, or very few want to be accurate. And I think that's the problem. I think everybody rushes to be first because they know if they're first, they're going to get everything, and then they're going to get all this free, pub behind them being first. But just because you're first doesn't mean you're accurate. And we've seen that all time and time again too, where people have been first and then completely missed the mark because they want to be first or they got bad intel, right? I've had bad intel before. So I think it's just about, I don't care about being first that much anymore. I care about being accurate, because guess what? You can always be accurate, and you don't have to worry about making a mistake versus being first, have to go back, correct that, and then face the backlash of you being wrong because there are trolls out there that want to crush you and destroy you just because you're doing something that they want to do and they don't have the opportunity to. So they're going to find any measure to try to destroy you, especially when you're wrong.
Yeah. That brings to mind our tendency to kind of jump to conclusions. There's been baseball's had some we'll just use baseball for right now. There's other places where we can talk about this too, but baseball's had a few characters in the last couple of years that have done things that are on the edge or over the edge of socially acceptable things. Trevor Bauer right now is blackballed. So he served his suspension. Also, we find out a lot of the charges were bogus, but still no one Major League Baseball is handing him a ball. And I don't know what's going on with Julio Urias. I mean, he's not charged with anything. It can't take a year to sort these things out. And then once it gets there, if we're just going to kick the dude out of baseball forever, then let's say that. Otherwise, and we don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Like the Major League Baseball Players Association, they have got to address this thing. You can't just have these year-long, no transparency investigations that result in lifetime bans when that's not what the contract says. So, what are your thoughts on how, I don't know, that, or how major leagues, not baseball, but all the major leagues deal with some of these behavioral things, especially when it's in the gray area and it may or may not be Major League Baseball or NFL's business?
Well, I think you have to look at the public perception, right? Like Trevor Bauer it comes off like an arrogant prick. Okay.
Yes.
That's not to say that's who he is, but sometimes he comes off like that. So I think with those charges that came up against him, people were like, okay, cool. We ain't got to deal with this guy anymore. I knew it. And then when they come to surface and they're saying, wait a minute, you had another young lady who tried to extort him and make up bogus charges. Now the judge is going at her and saying, oh, no. You've made erroneous charges and you tried to extort this man. So now criminal charges are going to be filed against you.
Yeah.
So it brings a bit of vindication, I'm sure, for him. But his attitude, sometimes it's your attitude that dictates your altitude. And a lot of times these guys get into these positions and they're super good, they're immensely talented, and they start, people start blowing smoke up their ass and they start believing the hype. And unfortunately, they don't know how to separate fantasy from reality. And people, it either rubs people the right way or the wrong way. And for the most part, it doesn't sit well with people how Trevor Bauer has acted, especially with the entire situation. And then the same thing for Julio Urias. I mean, people saw him get into an argument at an LAFC game in the parking lot. And then the police were called because him and his wife had been arguing, or allegedly, he physically assaulted her allegedly. And he was literally sitting in the car before the police had to pull him out. He was inebriated, obviously, from what all our witness accounts have been documented. And so this is not the first time that Julio Urias has been in that type of trouble. I mean, before it was, I believe, at the Beverly Center parking lot where he got into it with his wife. And allegedly, there was a physical altercation that took place between those two individuals. And so I think when you start building up, regardless of what it is or isn't it, whether you're charged or not, I think people look at history. I think people look at what has transpired beforehand. I think when people look at somebody like a Ken Griffey Jr., when you don't have any blemishes or you have anything like that on your record, or you look, at a Mookie Betts, for example, who pretty much is pretty much right now is one of the premier faces of baseball, but you don't hear anything negative about Mookie. All you see is what he does in the community, his businesses, his podcast, him imploring more Black fans to be involved at baseball stadiums, and imploring Major League Baseball to get more Black fans and highlight Black players, Black American baseball players for that matter, to be more involved and promoted in baseball. So those are the things that you see. Those are the things you see from Mike Trout, who is signing autographs and, taking pictures with kids. And I mean, leading the league, I believe he's maybe leading the league in homers this early in the season. And he's really been taking off. I mean, that one incident they tried to crush him on because he didn't want to take a picture with a particular fan one time. And we don't even know the context of why he was so in a hurry. We don't know if he was late for dinner with his family. We don't know if he's had an emergency, because Mike Trout's not like that. Mike Trout, I've watched Mike Trout since I've covered the Angels for about 10 seasons now. And Mike Trout has been nothing short of honorable. He has been very hospitable. He loves taking pictures with fans and kids and signing autographs with them, and just being, kind of that larger than life figure that they can feel like they can relate to, because this is Mike Trout, arguably one of the greatest hitters of our generation. And him being such a great ambassador to the game, like Mookie Betts being a great ambassador to the game. And when you look at those two individuals, that's what people see. So if there is, like I said, the whole Mike Trout incident, people was like, oh man, that's crazy. Most people didn't even give that a second look, because they're like, we know Trout's character. We've seen him do great work in communities and great work with people at the ballpark. So that's mine. That's a making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah. let's talk a little bit about baseball and their efforts to try to enrich the diversity. And I mean, it's a very diverse sport in terms of nationality, right? And there is, well, I mean, in June they're going to go to Alabama and play a game between the Cardinals and the Giants. They're going to celebrate the Negro Leagues, and Bob Kendrick is going to be there. Bob was on the show the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there. I hope you're there too." And I'm trying to get there myself. And so they are doing these things on the good side. We tend to focus on the negative hits and say these things aren't working, these things aren't working. But the reality is, hey, they're doing a lot of things. And actually, I'm working on a project to do a documentary about Felipe Alou's life, and there's its own version of the social responsibility that Major League Baseball is all too willing to at least sit with me and discuss, like, what their role will be in these things. So there are these good things. We tend to lose sight of that and focus on the negative.
Well, I think unfortunately it has to be balance, right? It has to be balance. I think you cannot discuss the good without talking about the bad. I think you have to discuss the problem in order to have a solution, and be able to discuss the solution and be able to execute that solution. So I love the fact that they're honoring the Negro Leagues. Bob Kendrick is a treasure. I said that, I believe, on one of your posts. He is absolutely a treasure. We must protect Bob Kendrick at all times because he's one of the great storytellers of baseball, especially Negro League baseball, and the historian that he is, and the very approachable public figure that he is, I might add, because for him to be the president of such a legendary museum like the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, I think is absolutely special. And the way he takes pride and care to ensure to welcome everybody, no matter what your nationality, gender, race, orientation. He welcomes everybody because he wants everybody to be part of this great game that we know is baseball. And so I love the fact that what they're doing with the Cardinals and the Giants, highlighting the Negro Leagues, playing in one of the vintage stadiums that the Negro League Negro League baseball team played in. And so I think that's great. I think I like what they're doing with the RBI program. I think with just the influx of the last 2 years of the draft, and you see a lot of Black American baseball players being involved in the draft, and you see even guys today like a Cedric Mullins, like a Hunter Green. You're looking at Tim Anderson, Nick Gordon, Jazz Chisholm. You look at Michael Harris II. You look at Mookie Betts. You look at Jason Hayward. Marcus Stroman. Countless guys who go on and on. But I think Byron Buxton. But I think the issue also cannot be negated is the fact that how did baseball get to this point where there's about 6.1% Black American baseball players currently on Major League Baseball rosters? And there's several teams that don't have any Black American baseball players on them. That is also an issue and a problem that needs to be discussed. And even when I spoke a couple of years ago with Commissioner Rob Manfred about this issue, and I said, listen, you got a golden opportunity, especially with the All-Star game being in Los Angeles, which I believe they dropped the ball with that. And I say that because when you have such a diverse community like Los Angeles that has a Black population, a Latino population, an Asian population, a white population, a Pacific Islander population, and so forth, the LGBTQ plus,
on and on,
the Jewish American population. So I think you have an opportunity with this melting pot that you're in, but also you have to understand who are you targeting and who do you need to attract. And they had a golden opportunity, especially with the NFL coming off an epic Super Bowl at that time with Dr. Dre and Snoop and Eminem and Kendrick Lamar and 50 Cent and Mary J. Blige. I think that I said that Major League Baseball should at least brought out Ice Cube or brought out Kendrick Lamar, because not only are they Black artists, but they're diverse artists. A lot of people from various backgrounds love those two artists. I've been to Ice Cube concerts where you've had Latinos, you have Black folks, you have white folks, you have, Asian American folks, you got Native American folks, you got everybody, Pacific Islanders, you got everybody under the sun at an Ice Cube concert, and we all singing along with the words. We all rapping every lyric. We are engaging where Dub C is out there trying to hype up the crowd as Cube is spitting his lyrics. We've all been to an Ice Cube concert where you've seen vast amounts of people. Kendrick Lamar, same thing. Kendrick Lamar is a special talent. You being that they're both from LA and one is from Compton, you could have easily hired that and then brought on, along with bringing on Becky G. right? So you could have had both artists where you hit both demographics and still been successful. And I guarantee you, you would have headlined Ice Cube or Kendrick Lamar, Dodger Stadium would have been wall to wall of people just trying to get to the concert itself. They may not care about the game, but the concert. But here's what you do: you market and advertise so well with Major League Baseball that people may be intrigued to want to come to the home run derby. They may want to come to the All-Star game. They may want to come to a Dodger game or wherever city they may live in. And I think that's why I think that's where they dropped the ball, because you also have to have people that are making the decisions to be connected to the culture. And I think you have to have more people. And I love what they're doing by working with Curtis Granderson and his organization, and several others, that are working with that organization to be able to bring more awareness with Black players into baseball. Because once upon a time, there was an influx of Black American baseball players in Major League Baseball once the color barrier was broken by the great Jackie Robinson. And so when you have those opportunities, especially once the Negro leagues, pretty much were dissolved, you had an influx of players, especially what Kurt Flood was able to do when it came to free agency that involved all sports, not just baseball. Even though he lost at one point in time, but they eventually gave it to free agency because of what Kurt Flood started. And so when you got baseball in the 70s and the 80s in cities like LA, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, and parts of Texas, you had an influx of Black baseball players up until the strike in 94. After the strike in 94, it seemed like baseball, who was in the red, decided to say, okay, you know what? We're going to go get 2 for 1 or 3 for 1. Let's go to the Central American and South American countries and get the talent from down there, which they have every right to, but you cannot neglect rather the talent that's right in your backyard. And so when you stop promoting baseball to the masses here in the States, when you had the Deion Sanders commercials, when you had the Ken Griffey Jr. commercials, when you saw people like Derek Jeter, making his debut in Major League Baseball, when you had guys like that, the Eric Davises of the world, the Darryl Strawberries, the Doc Goodens of the world. When you saw those, you saw an image of yourself. So it enticed you to want to play that sport. The NFL and the NBA did the same thing. They just maximized it and capitalized on it once baseball decided to turn the blind eye and a deaf ear to what was going on in their backyard. That's why the NFL became the number one sport. That's why the NBA started to emerge, because first of all, it was cheaper. Secondly, they made it affordable and appealing to want to play, and that's how they priced a lot of Black kids out of the market, because it became traveling teams. Baseball became traveling teams where the average American family can afford to have a traveling team and be a part of a traveling team because it's very expensive. So what are you going to do to rectify that? That is also the other question we have to focus in on. Getting kids at a younger age to be able to say, how are we going to make it affordable for their family? Some come from single homes, some come from two-parent homes rather. How are we going to make it affordable and appealing and entertaining enough to say it's cool to play baseball? It's cool and affordable to play baseball. And I think a lot of these Major League Baseball teams, a lot of Major League Baseball, I think a lot of the organizations need to create maybe a fund, if they haven't already, and pool their resources and their money into investing into various communities. The RBI program can't be the only thing that you invest in what they consider urban communities. You have to be able to have multiple areas where you're able to invest, because everybody can't get to the RBI program, but you have to make it appealing and obtainable to where you can reach their need, so they can go and be able to live out their particular dream of being the next Mookie Betts or Cedric Mullins or Aaron Judge or whoever.
Yeah, man, you just said a lot right there, and I love it. And I love that we get to have these kind of conversations, because we do. If you look at the big sports, when we look at diversity, baseball is the most diverse of the big sports, right? They have got the most people from the most places. Taiwan pitchers, Korean pitchers, Chinese pitchers, all this. There's players coming from everywhere. But and I guess I would say this too, and we have made some progress. I don't know if you might remember this, but was it LaTroy Hawkins was like, my son is going to be the last Black player from America, right? But that isn't what happened. Baseball has maybe turned it around, or the ebb and the flow is ebbing instead of or flowing instead of ebbing. So when is it fixed? When is it good enough? And why do we hold baseball to the standard? We don't hold football to that standard. Football is not very diverse at all. It's very limited.
It's
hockey too. Is anyone mad at hockey for not having Chinese players, black players, that kind of thing?
Here's the thing. I look at what goes on in the States, right? And I think football is diverse in the sense because of the country that we live in. I think when you look at from that standpoint, right? And I'm strictly saying football 70+% black. The NBA is 80+% black, but the NBA is also diversifying. They're probably one of the growing diversified sports because you have Euro players, you have people from China come in, Yao Ming and a few others. And they're continuing to grow with the Basketball Africa League, and you're looking at people coming in from places like Greece and all these other places. So I think they are growing their region. I think they're growing their look when it comes to the NBA. I think Adam Silver is continuing to diversify the NBA as becoming a global sport because basketball is a global sport.
It is.
When you look at the Olympics, it is a global sport, and these foreign national teams are catching up to Team USA. We saw that. I mean, you watched the documentary what they did with the Redeem team, I believe it was, when Kobe decided, hey, I'm tired of seeing y'all lose, I'm gonna join up.
Yeah.
And they had to go head to head against Spain. That Rudy Fernandez and Pau Gasol and those guys, and they were formidable opponents. And so when you look at where it is on a global level, I think the NBA is realizing, hey, we got to continue to diversify our portfolio. We got to make sure that we are out there. That's why they have teams in Toronto to give it that international appeal in a different country. Maybe they may try one more time in Vancouver at some point. Maybe Mexico City might get a team at some point. Who knows? But I think they are doing they can. I mean, we see one of the biggest superstars in the league right now is Nikola Jokic, who's a bona fide superstar on the verge of being a two-time NBA champion, MVP, two-time MVP, who is pretty much destroying the Lakers as we speak.
That's true.
Denver is their daddy, and Jokic is a big reason why. And so when you look at that, Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers being an MVP and where he's come from, Giannis Antetokounmpo, what he's doing in Milwaukee, NBA champion, MVP, still a force to be reckoned with when he's healthy. So you have so many different, Pascal Siakam. There are countless players that are continuing to grow this game that come from other countries because basketball is a universal language. I think with baseball, you have to continue. You may be doing it on the international end, but if you're not taking care of home, that's when it becomes an issue. Same thing with the national. I raised the issue with the National Hockey League. I said I was reading a report about 3 or 3.5% of the National Hockey League has Black American players or Black players, period. It was Black players. I'm sorry. It was Black players, whether they be from Canada or from the United States, but Black players, period. And I even talked to Willie O'Ree, the great legendary Willie O'Ree, and asked him what his thoughts were. And he said he thought the NHL is doing a good job. But he said, we've definitely come a long way from when he broke the color barrier in the NHL at his time. And where it's going now. And, he shared with me even off camera. He said, it definitely could be better. But I think it takes time to grow and it takes time to bring awareness to a problem. And I think same thing with Major League Baseball, which is why, I'm involved with MLB Bro that was created and started by Rob Parker, who's a longtime baseball writer, longtime baseball voter, who saw a need that said, look, we need to start highlighting Black players, Black American baseball players, because they're not getting the shine that most of the other leagues are giving their players. And so I think, between that, what MLB Bro has done and continues to do in year 4 and going into year 5, I think we have to continue to raise awareness. We can't be afraid to talk about topics that need to be brought to the forefront, respectfully, of course. And also, too, not to be overly critical, but to be critical in order to correct. See, a lot of people want to be critical just to hate or run their mouth, but no solution. We are trying to be critical to correct because we want to see this problem. I don't want to see 6% for the rest of my life. I want to see it get to 10%. I want to see it get to 15%. Hopefully get it to 20% at some point. Get it to 30%. What we saw, even the times that we saw in the 70s and 80s when you had an influx of black players, as I mentioned earlier. I would love to see that and just get the game back to where it is, where you getting commercials, you getting Nike shoe deals, and Puma and Adidas getting involved and making these fantastic commercials that we saw from the late 80s and the 90s. When you saw Tony Gwynn get to the plate, you're like, oh shoot, Tony Gwynn's at the plate. You see Deion Sanders in commercials playing with, little leaguers, and you see Ken Griffey with his hat to the back, who had all the swag and just making it cool to be Ken Griffey Jr. and swinging the bat and the way he swung the bat, and you want to buy the Griffies. I still got a pair of Griffies to this day. I still buy the Griffies. That's because of what happened in my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely heroes from all the sports that make you emulate whoever they are. Like when I was a kid, Ricky was just coming up. I actually ended up, this is by just total luck, and my folks had no idea, neither did I, but on Ricky's debut game in the 70s. And, when he was going for 130, I turned the sprinklers on in my front yard and get the grass all wet. And I put my fake A's batting helmet on, and I'd run and I'd slide. I was never thinking I'm imitating a black man. I was thinking I'm imitating a hero, and we all do that. Baseball in particular has a lot of that idiosyncratic, like this windup is unique to this person. So I'll do the El Duque wind up with my knee up to my face, and all these things. So baseball has that advantage. And I suppose basketball does too. People shoot more like Steph Curry now than ever before. So there's a lot of that emulating. And again, I don't think that's due to race. I think that's due to greatness.
I think as far as the promotion, it has to do with race, because certain players are promoted more than others, unfortunately. I think greatness is goes beyond race or even gender, for that matter, because we've got some great women athletes that we look to, whether it be Cheryl Swoops, whether it be Maya Moore or Candace Parker, or the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. Whether we looking at Billie Jean King. Just greatness is greatness, no matter, like you said. I agree with you. It's no matter who does it, what gender, what race, what orientation you may be. I mean, Greg Louganis, we saw what he did with swimming. Michael Phelps. There's black, white, Asian, Latino kids that want to be swim like Michael Phelps at one point in time. Everybody wanted to start swimming because Michael Phelps just looked that awesome, and what he was able, and it looked so easy for him to just, I mean, when you put Michael Phelps in the water, you'd be a fool to bet against Michael Phelps at that time. You could put a shark in water and say he's going to outswim a shark. That's how great Michael Phelps was. That's how big he was, because he made it look so, even though obviously he trained for years and years, but he made it look so easy and so appealing that everybody wanted to start swimming now. And so I think when you look at the promotion of certain athletes, we talk about this in the WNBA, where there's a lot of controversy with the whole Caitlin Clark issue and how Caitlin Clark is being perceived and welcomed, and how things are happening around her versus a young lady like an Angel Reese, who's a national champion, who was drafted in the first round, 7th pick, to a big market in Chicago with the Chicago Sky. But we also talk about one of the faces that runs the place in Asia Wilson, and why doesn't she have a shoe deal? But Caitlin Clark, who's never set foot on a WNBA court in the regular season, has a $28 to $30 million shoe deal by Nike. And so I said that it has something to do with race, absolutely, but it also has to do with these projections, because they base it upon, if you don't any type of marketing or business, things are looked upon projections. When contracts are given or extensions are given, it's based upon future performance. Yeah, you may have caught the eye or the attention of that individual or individuals or that corporation because of what you've done, but they're looking at what you're going to do and surpassing that, which is why they give you the huge extensions or give you these huge contract offers, because of the potential of what you can do. You could fall flat on your face and never even reach that potential. They don't know it, and hell, you don't know it, but they are looking at the projections. But my other issue is those who are making the decisions need to be culturally entwined and culturally connected to be able to understand, how does Asia Wilson, a woman that's a Time magazine person a top 100 Time 100 magazine person who is a best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. The woman is a two-time WNBA champion. She's a two-time Defensive Player of the Year champion. She's playing at an elite high level, leading a team, putting a team on her back. And oh, by the way, she has not a beef, but she has a competitive beef, I should say, well, for lack of a better term, with Breonna Stewart. And there's no beef, but I'm saying it's on the basketball court. It's almost like watching, Kobe, everybody's saying Kobe versus LeBron or Magic versus Bird or, something to that degree. And now the WNBA has an opportunity to do that with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Now, will they do it is the question. It is not Caitlin Clark's fault. She earned every bit of what she did. Her workout regimen, the time that she put in. She is a top-notch player. She can flat out hoop. But so can Angel Reese.
Yeah.
The problem is, it was announced that her jersey sold out in about an hour. Angel Reese also sold out a jersey, but it was barely mentioned. So how is it that two first-round picks, two top-notch athletes who helped carry the women's game for the last couple of years and elevate its plateau, where more people, even men, are paying attention to the women's college game than the men's college game?
Yeah.
And they have elevated to the point where you could pay attention to a Paige Beckers. You could pay attention to a Juju Watkins. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where is it why don't we have the same effect, or why don't we have the same opportunities to promote both of these ladies? Because no matter what their races are, they're still great players. But because of what they look like, certain powers that be decide to promote one over the other, which is why I get back to the original argument. I say it has something to do with the race. But to your point, greatness is greatness. And no matter if it's Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese or Asia Wilson or Breonna Stewart, greatness is greatness. But how are they promoted and how are they received is based upon what, unfortunately, in this country, what they look like.
I for sure modeled my low post game on Kevin McHale's drop step and Wayman Tisdale's giant ass. So both of those guys, if you had those two things mixed together, whoo, man, you were good down low.
Pause. I will say this, though. I think Wayman Tisdale was an incredible player. God rest his soul. But I also think he was an incredibly talented musician.
Oh,
and
my God.
That gets enough credit as well. Still speaking of Wayman Tisdale.
Yeah, and to speak of people that have a shot with their name on it, the Tizzy flip. I mean, left-handed little hook, stick your ass out. I'm not mocking them, man. I'm proud of it. I'm like, I can stick my butt. I didn't know. It's like when I learned from Michael Jordan, you can take your shoulders back and you can clear space. Wayman did it down low, and it turns out I got a pretty big butt. I got a low center, got my leg, So yeah. And again, I never thought like I'm imitating a black guy. I'm like, no, this actually works with my physicality. Like, and I'm terrible at basketball, but we do emulate what we see. I want to ask you, and I'm going to be a little bit critical of the WNBA in general. They've been around for a long time. Arena football has been around a long time, and WNBA, despite all of the support, has not broken out, right? And so, what is it about? Do you think the marketing where the AFL, the Arena Football League, and WNBA? I mean, season for season, AFL beats the WNBA. So how does the NBA get better, or the WNBA get better at doing that? Is this a breakout moment with the ladies tournament this year and how much attention that we got? We're going to forget that Clark doesn't win the championship, by the way, because she's such a big name. And then I'm going to add two more things into this. Ice Cube, bringing him back in, he's also pushing the bounds of what's possible because he has this alternate product that people like and he makes money on. And then finally, is there a space for 3-2 basketball where it's 3 dudes, 2 ladies at the NBA level? Forget the W, forget the M. It's just we're going to have a mixed league. I got time for that game.
I would like to see it, but I mean, to answer your first question about the W when it comes to marketing, I think they're continuing to learn about marketing. I think they're starting to understand marketing a team, but not necessarily understanding marketing a specific player, a la Asia Wilson or Breonna Stewart.
Okay.
I think that could absolutely change, obviously, with the arrival of Caitlin Clark and what she's been able to bring to the game. And then you mentioned, we don't remember that Caitlin Clark lost those championships. Yes, the hell we do. Oh yes, we
Or
remember.
give it 10 years. I'm
We
saying,
remember. We remember. Oh no. See, that's the thing. That's what I talk about balance. Not to crap on her as a player or what she
Right, of
had to
course.
accomplish, but it's like we can't ignore the fact that Angel Reese is a national champion and beat
That's
Caitlin
right.
Clark for the national championship. Now, Caitlin Clark came back, obviously, I believe in the Elite Eight, and beat LSU with Angel Reese there. And Angel Reese, and no excuses, but hey, she messed up her ankle and wasn't the same player in the second half,
Sure.
and that turned the tables. But all in all, Caitlin Clark still in Iowa still beat LSU nonetheless. But what I will say is too, balance is part of the problem, and I think you look at marketing in the league. I believe needs to do a better job marketing the individual superstars. We talk about the super teams, the New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces. Now you got Seattle Storm. You know, you got the Phoenix Mercury starting to build their super team on this, which could be Diana Taurasi's final year in the WNBA. But you're seeing these super teams starting to emerge, and so now they're building. That's why I said they're learning how to market team wise, but marketing individual players. Like you should be able to market a Jewel Lloyd in Seattle, a Skylar Diggins-Smith in Seattle, versus an Angel Reese, obviously, who's going to get massive marketing being in Chicago, even more so than Cardoso, who won a national championship. Speaking of people that have won national championships, you talk about a Caitlin Clark in Indiana with Aaliyah Boston. You talk about what's going on in Atlanta, or Satu Sabali in Dallas with the Dallas Wings, or you talk about a Brittany Griner or a Kalaya Copper in Phoenix, along with the great Diana Taurasi. You talk about a Candace Parker who's coming back one more year for the Las Vegas Aces, but you can't ignore the fact that what A'ja Wilson has put this league on her back and on her shoulders for the last couple of years. And so what about building those rivalries, building those Magic Bird, those LeBron, Kobe, Steph versus whoever type of rivalries? You have those in the W. You just have to be able to find them and be able to capitalize on the momentum. And this is going to be a true test if the W can truly capitalize on the momentum of a Caitlin Clark and an Angel Reese. When it comes to arena football, I just have to say that's probably due to marketing. I mean, you even look at the MLS. The MLS gets more because obviously there's more fans. You can get 30, you can get a 26,000 fans inside of an arena at LAFC. You can get 25,000 fans for the LA Galaxy. At one point, there was one time I watched a game with the Atlanta FC inside of the Mercedes-Benz Dome. They had 70,000 fans.
Damn! Wow.
This was years ago. And I'm saying you're seeing the New York Red Bull, you're seeing New York FC, sell out, stadiums where they having 25 or 24,000 people. So I think it's just the marketing of it all. And then Apple TV got in on it and said, hey, we're going to start covering the MLS, which improved the quality of how you watch games as well. So maybe the W needs to get involved with Apple TV, because we saw what they've done for Friday Night Baseball. And man, it looks amazing. If you watch Apple TV on Friday nights, and now that they've gotten better, sideline reporters and better, people calling the game. It's like, man, it's amazing to watch a game like that. I mean, the clarity, the sound quality, and sometimes that can improve too. If you got, let's say you get a major rivalry, like you get a Breonna Stewart against an A'ja Wilson, you get that on Apple TV, or you get Diana Taurasi against Caitlin Clark, on television, on Apple TV. The quality alone could be magnificent. So I think they just have to do a better job at marketing. I've always said, I've even talked to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert about that. Like, how are you able to market these individual players and build these rivalries? Because I told her, I said, listen, I think y'all dropped the ball.
Yeah.
When it came to A'ja and Stewie, y'all dropped the ball.
I'll tell you who else dropped the ball. Major League Baseball with when you're going to open up stealing, which they've done, and you may not be old enough to remember this, but back in the heydays of Ricky and Vince and all these guys stealing, they would do a picture-in-picture, and you would see Ricky or Vince out there, and you're like, oh my God, he's got 2 feet on the turf. He's not even in the sliding box. His lead is 15 feet or whatever. And now we could track that. We could put up there and put numbers to it, make it exciting. And they've not done that. And so it's maybe it's a cutaway, but there's no attention played to that game within the game where the pitcher's trying to freeze out and and there's some excitement to be extracted from the game there. And hopefully some of the broadcasters are going to take that on. And I also want to add this in, then I'm going to let you talk, and then we're going to wrap it up. I am super bullish on the A's on the Strip. If they get all that figured out, and there's some distance to get there, but I know so many people from the Midwest sort of like, I'll bring my client there. We'll definitely get season tickets. We'll definitely go there. Like Cleveland right now. Or would you rather go Cleveland and Vegas, And so there's a real market there. And look, I'm from Oakland, so I'm going to be a little hard on my Oakland people. We didn't show up over the course of 60 years. And we hate to blame the fans, but we also have to say, look, you have to have fans show up. The community in terms of voting and government has to show up. The team's got to show up. The team did a lot of winning, but something happened in that market where it didn't work good. I don't think that's going to happen in Vegas, because Vegas pulls in tens of millions of people every year, and they put them right on the Strip, and those guys know how to fill seats.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's the smartest move, because you got 35,000 seat stadium. So you don't have to have a lot of people to pack it in. Right. I'm sure they're going to have some amenities around the stadium. Obviously, like you said, it's right where the Tropicana Hotel used to be. It's going to be in that region. And so when you come from a game, hey, you might want to go hit the casino. You might want to go hit the club. You might want to go hit Aria. You might want to hit the club by the Cosmo. You might want to go hit Omnia or whatever, whatever club or venue you want to hit up, or go get something to eat, go hit a top-notch bar at the Waldorf Astoria. So I think there's opportunity and amenities that you can be afforded. And like you said, you're going to be people bringing clients. I know LA people, if the Dodgers play, let's say, for example, the Dodgers play the Las Vegas A's, there are people from LA say, oh man, let's go watch the Dodger game real quick. We can go right there and watch our team go kick the living crap out of the A's, or even when the Angels come to town, when San Francisco comes to town, the Yankees come to town. Obviously, those are big time organizations in cities that won't hesitate to come to Las Vegas, especially if it's snowing back east and the weather's pretty decent in Vegas. And so I think that's a good move, and I think baseball is going to continue to expand. I think they're going to expand to another city at some point. So
where do you think? What are your picks?
If I had a guess, I'd probably say Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville is a growing metropolis, much like how we saw Las Vegas grow into a sports metropolis over the last 10 to 15 years. And it's still growing because they're going to get an NBA franchise at some point. We know the bullet train is going to be coming from in the Inland Empire area of Southern California into Las Vegas. That's going to be an area where they're going to build an NBA arena plus a hotel and kind of make it like what LA Live here is in downtown Los Angeles. They're going to make it somewhere like Las Vegas Live or something to that degree, where there are certain amenities, and you're only about a mile or so away from the airport. You're about 2 or 3 miles south of the Vegas Strip, if that. So it's going to be all connected at some point. Who knows what Vegas may build a tram to go from the south end of the Strip to where the train is. I mean, you never know what Vegas is planning on that Strip. So it's a lot of opportunity for Vegas to grow. And I think Nashville is doing something similar with them having the Nashville Predators, having a new stadium built for the Tennessee Titans, possibly getting a WNBA team in Nashville at some point as they expand. So I think it's all kinds of opportunity and amenities for what they need to do and how they need to do it. It's just about seeing it come to fruition as baseball and any other league decides to grow. And as these cities grow, there's a need for sports. And when there's a need for sports, there's money and opportunity available.
I love it. Hey, just real quick, then I'm gonna let you go because I've had you just about an hour. What do you got coming up? What are you excited about? How can people support you?
Well, you can support me financially. No, I'm joking. But no,
but really, do it.
We're looking. I'm not. Hey, listen, I ain't turned down nothing but my collar. So listen, we got the NH Experience every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, SiriusXM channel 145. And also please subscribe to us on all of the streaming platforms. We are available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify for free 99. Also with myself, my producer, Jake Warner, as well as my other co-host, Jackie Ray. And then also we have for women's basketball, season 2 of the Hardwood 94. That's coming this May. available on YouTube at youtube.com/NHExperienceTV. Subscribe right now. If you missed the first season, go back and rewatch the first season. We got a lot of candid episodes, a lot of candid conversations, really fun, entertaining. So we're getting ready for season 2 as the W rolls around in 2024. Let's see what else I got going. Nitecastmedia.com, with where sports, entertainment, lifestyle, and culture line up. Listen, we got a lot going on. I got some other projects that I can't really speak on right now, but we are working on a documentary this year, looking to shoot it this year. So I'll give you guys more details as it comes along. But follow me on Instagram at Nick Hamilton LA, as well as on X at Nick Hamilton 213. And also follow us on TikTok at Nitecast Media.
All right. I try to keep up with all them links, but just keep on looking, everybody. Look in the remarks. Almost all of that stuff's covered there. Man, Nick, I appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I love how you're growing. I love your just take no prisoners attitude. It's awesome. Anything before I wrap this up and push the credit button? Anything at all?
You know what? Just keep living life. Stay sharp. And make sure that, you look out for self and look out for others around you. And I appreciate the opportunity, Pete. Congratulations on what you've been able to accomplish as well, man. I know we go back far, far back, even before that Laker podcast we were talking about.
Yeah.
We go a little bit back before that.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, I'm just looking to do it. I'm also occasionally you can catch me on BBC News. Where I'm a correspondent, so you can catch me there sometimes too. But I usually post all of that.
Busy.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, we doing it, man. We're I'm not stopping until I get all the pot of gold that I need to get, and then
that's right.
I may stop. We'll see.
We'll see. All right, stand by. I'll say goodbye to you in a sec.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much for watching.